Hey everybody, my name is David Sugarman, and what I want to do today is tell you a little bit about my relationship and how I met my wife. And I want to just start off that, a long distance relationship can be difficult at times because of the distance. So I'll be going over a little bit about my story of how I met my wife, and then how we actually survived this, and talk about a little bit of the downsides and the upsides. And don't worry, we're still together, so let's start. An inside look at a long distance relationship by me. My wife and I have been able to make our relationship work against all odds. Both sides have had to make sacrifices, some small, some big, and what is anything great without sacrifice? Here is my side of how I have made a long distance relationship work. I hope my personal story gives hope to whoever needs it. So we'll start where it all began. It all began in 2007 when I was home in America. I'm originally from Saratoga Springs, New York. I was 20 years old at the time. And some might say that that's quite young to meet someone, but that's when we met. We were both 20. I was studying at a college near home, and I had a normal life going to school to earn my bachelor's degree. I was really happy with my life back then, and I had thought I would live close to my family. And the ironic thing is now that I live in Israel, and we'll get to that. So one day my mother told me about a 10-day free trip called Taglit, or other people call it Birthright Israel, and it's basically a trip where a bunch of people from abroad, like America, Canada, South America, pretty much all over the world, I can name them all. They come together, they're all Jewish, and they all go see Israel for 10 days, and it's kind of like a 10-day tour. And that's how I met her. So she insisted that I went on the trip. Ironically, I didn't want to go on the trip at all. My mother continued to persuade me, and eventually I convinced a friend to come with me. A week before the trip, my friend backed out of the trip to Israel. He decided that he didn't want to go, and I was actually bummed. I really thought he was going to come with me, and then last minute he decided to cancel. I didn't really want to go on a trip alone across the world, as you can imagine, without knowing anyone. I stuck with it and packed my bags anyway, and I knew that I was going to go on a journey, but you're going to see what happens next. I remember getting to the airport, not knowing what was ahead of me. Little did I know, I would be meeting my future wife. The first 5 days of Birthright, I was with other Americans. We got along very well, but something was missing. The thing was, I was really eager to get to know the tour guide and the security guard on the trip because they were Israeli. I got to know these two guys very well because I wanted to get the full experience of Israel, and then something happened. 9 Israeli soldiers joined our trip. Thinking back on it, maybe it was meant to be, after all, that my friend didn't come with me on the trip. Maybe it was meant to be that I would see my wife while I was completely on my own. My friend could have been a distraction, and if that happened, maybe I wouldn't have actually had the experience I did with my wife on the trip, because I would have been with him. January 2nd, 2008. I remember clearly the time and day I first saw my wife. Can even remember the exact date itself. And the funny thing is, we never had a traditional date. So we never did traditional dating. We met on this trip and we just moved forward with it. And you're gonna see more. We eventually sat next to each other for the first time on the trip bus. Our language barrier was so large, but that didn't matter. We had such an intense connection to start. Since then, we have never been separated. I mean, from an emotional standpoint, not geographically. After the trip was finished, I had to fly back home. We both didn't know if we were going to see each other again. It was very difficult. I said goodbye at the airport and we went our separate ways, not knowing what was next. I remember getting home and feeling as if I had left a part of myself. I had to get back. I walked through the front door of my parents' home, and I remember crying to my parents, and I said, "That's it, Mom and Dad. I'm quitting college, and I'm going to go fly to Israel to be with her. And I know that I'll find a job." And my mom turns to me and says, "David, what do you have to offer her? You don't have a degree." She even added that she would actually pay for a flight for me to come to Israel if I really wanted. But I thought about it for a while, and I needed to finish my studies. I couldn't just go to Israel without a degree. I needed something behind me that I could bring with me to Israel. I knew that I didn't want to lose her. I would do anything to get her in my life again. It was very frustrating not knowing what was going to happen. And in the end, you have to be crazy in love to make it work. So when I got home, I'm there sitting in my room and thinking what I should do. So we started to do Skype calls, and I'll read off. We made Skype video calls and sent each other packages in the mail. We also spoke quite a lot on the telephone and tried to be in touch as much as we could at that time. And the distance was killing us. I just had to see her, you know? So you have to be creative and really just let love guide you, and eventually I believe that brings you together. Then a miracle happened. My wife decided to apply to a summer camp in America. And America is huge. She could have gone anywhere. It could have been California, it could have been Oklahoma, I don't know, but not in New York. And I told her I hoped that she would come closer to where I was living. And that's what she did. Her plans worked out as she wanted. She got the job at the summer camp. It was called Camp Pontiac. The great thing was she got a job at a summer camp that was 1 hour and 30 minutes away from where I grew up. It was in the Berkshire Mountains of Massachusetts. Very beautiful. I recommend anybody that wants to go visit there. What did I do after I heard that she got the job? So I applied to the same summer camp, got the job, and I surprised her. Originally, she thought that I would come visit her every other weekend. She didn't know that I was actually going to work there with her the whole summer. And I surprised her. So another thing, if you want to keep things going, you have to take chances. At the summer camp, I was able to see her every day and night. If I have any advice for someone who wants to keep a long distance relationship, it would be to do the extreme and take big chances. The fact that I decided to work there all summer was definitely the thing that pushed us to be together. At the end of the summer of 2008, we were considered a couple. But again, all good things come to an end. We needed to say goodbye again. And it hurt. There are a lot of hard goodbyes in long distance relationships. So if you're going to get into one, just know you're going to probably say goodbye a lot. Downsides of a long distance relationship. Goodbyes, a lot of goodbyes. A lot of waiting. Sometimes you can wait 4 months, 6 months. I remember the feeling of waiting. And sometimes after waiting, not everything goes according to plan. It gets harder. And you also must leave your family and friends behind. And you're going back and forth between both places. So I was from New York and she was from Israel, so there were times you'll see where we were both in New York and both in Israel. I had to make one of the biggest decisions of my life. I decided to go study in Israel for 1 year. That way I could see her all the time. And again, this is after the summer camp. And to tell you the truth, we didn't see each other as much as we both hoped. I had other obligations. She was from another city than the university. Things like this. So the fact that I came to Israel and lived in Israel didn't mean I saw her all the time. This right here, you can see on the left hand side, that's the apartment that we moved into. After 3 months of living in Israel and struggling to see each other, we decided to live together. And we found an apartment right on the beach in Tel Aviv and lived there for 9 months. After 1 year, I needed to go back to America to finish my degree. So we were there for about 9 months, and then after that, I went back to the States. Every time when we thought it was going to get easier, it got harder. Now, at the time, my wife needed to make a decision to come with me or not. Instead of just another goodbye, my wife had the courage to come back with me to America. We lived with my family for 9 months. For my wife, 6 positive things that happened when my wife came with me to America. She got to know my family and the world I came from very well, and I think that was really important. She got to see who my brother and my sister was, all of my, my grandmas, and also my cousins and uncle and aunts. She got to see them. She got to know who they were, and spend holidays with us and things like that. It was really nice. She met my friends and learned about American culture. She got to see where I grew up, and that gave her a better understanding of who I was. And I think that was really important, that she got to see exactly who I was and where I came from, and I could share memories with her. I traveled a little together and gained new experiences with my wife. She saw the most important places that I had in my childhood, and she also improved her English language skills, which is a great tool for life. Yeah, now her English is absolutely great, and makes me actually feel like home. So after the time in my home, I had to make the biggest decision in my life, which meant leaving America and leaving everything behind. And a little flash forward, I ended up moving to Israel. Okay, I come to Israel, and I went exactly where my wife was living. She was living in Beersheba at the time in Israel, and boy, I was in for a surprise. So once I arrived to Israel, I remember the feeling of excitement. You know, here I was actually moving to a new country, and after a couple months, real life hits, and you need to find a job and pay the bills and things like this. So all the excitement actually goes down, but again, everything is new, so it depends on where you're moving to. But I moved to a place that there was hardly anything there. I rode my bike everywhere in the beginning and had no car, so here I was moving to another country. I had a car, and now I don't. So this is one thing that happened, and I started to really miss the old life, and I needed to find the power and strength to get through the process of immigrating. You come to a new country, so it's a new language, new culture. You're just figuring everything out, and that was difficult. And also for my wife, it was difficult for her to have someone come to a country without a job and to build himself from the beginning. But that's what I was willing to do to keep her in my life. It was to do things to make this relationship keep going. So yeah, you can start from the bottom. And I served in the Israeli army for 8 months. This wasn't something I grew up with, but I am pretty patriotic, and especially when it comes to Israel now. So I'm happy that I went into the army, but it was hard. I didn't get to see her as much as I wanted. Sometimes it was every 2 weeks, and here I left America, and I come and live in Israel, and I only saw her for 2 weeks, every 2 weeks or something like this, and that was really difficult. So I was disappointed. But eventually I got out of the army. Then we kind of had a normal life for a little bit, living together again, but we left Beersheba and we went closer to Tel Aviv, and we later on got married on December 19th, 2013. We had a beautiful wedding, and then we have 2 children now. So I mean, it's a flash forward. I could get into it more, but of course, there are hardships with all of this, but we'll get into that. So if you're someone getting into a long distance relationship, just know that 10 years down the road, it will look a lot different than how it all started. You will have to be very strong, and if your love is strong, then you can get through anything. As much as you have sacrificed and left behind, your husband or wife will always have to go through it with you. They are on the same journey as you. So know that your partner has to be very much, in the decision of you moving, if that's going to be you moving, or if it's vice versa, if it's not you moving, but if it's her moving or him moving to your native country, just know that both sides are going to have to handle and to go through things together. For me, the hardest thing was leaving family and friends behind, and this will always be the most difficult part. And I think this was harder than leaving America. I mean, every time I see my family, they're getting older, the circumstances are different, and that can be very difficult. But I do believe that distance has made us stronger as well, because when we see each other, twice a year, which is good for most long-distance relationships, because I know people that only see their mom or dad or their parents like once every 2 years, you know, so I get to see them sometimes 2 to 3 times a year. I think this is pretty good in comparison to others. But yeah, you know, their life keeps going and your life keeps going. So let's end this with the upsides. So imagine if you're the one leaving your country to go live with the love of your life. You start everything from the beginning. You make new friends and build a new family. You become a stronger person, because things can get really hard. You learn so much about a different country and its people. You get to build a life with someone that truly loves you. And that's important, because real love is hard to find. So once you have it, you gotta hold on to it and then build from there. That's the way I take it. You have the chance to have a second life. Imagine you grew up in another country your whole life, and now you get to live in another one and become a different person, and, you know, see a different world. It's pretty amazing. You begin to learn to trust the universe, that things happen for reasons, and I like that, you know. I kind of like that aspect of looking at life. And then you become a better you. And I really do feel that I've become a better person being here and doing the things that I've done. I mean, of course, there are things that I really wish I had done in America too, but I do believe that you do become a bigger, better person. And guys, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope this helps anyone that needs any advice when it comes to long-distance relationships. Again, a long-distance relationship can be just an hour away, but for me, it's a country away. And I made this for people that are thinking about if they should stay in a long-distance relationship or not. And my answer is yes, even though it's going to be super hard. I mean, you only live one life, right? So make sure you choose the right spouse, the right partner, and everything will be okay. That's it for now. If you want to leave a comment, please do. I would love to answer any questions that you have. And bye for now.